Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's great to see you here because I've got the most coolest guest this morning. Not that all the other guests aren't cool, I should say that. But I'm speaking to the very enigmatic and energetic Marshal Gillen, all the way from Illinois. How you going, Marshall?
Hey, what's going on, girl? Thank you so much for having me on. Just to all of you people that might be tuning in, whether it's live or on a replay, thank you for the conversation that you're about to tune into. I'm super excited to be here. It's nighttime for me, and I think morning for you. So I'm going to try to siphon some of this energy that I have to you guys in the future, and you guys take it in and go help somebody, I guess.
Yeah, I reckon we can do that.
All
We're
right.
all over that. It's a bit, well, I can't speak for the whole of Australia because it's a big place, but my
Yeah.
little part of the world's quite beautiful today. So
Where,
I'm sending you some of the warmth from us.
where are you in the world? Like, what part of Australia are you in?
I'm on the Gold Coast in Queensland.
What does that mean? I'm such a
What
dumb
does that mean?
American.
What does that mean?
I want to get
So,
that.
do you know where Sydney is?
Is that like West Coast or East Coast? Or is
So
it?
I'm East Coast,
Oh, okay, right on.
Pacific Ocean.
Right.
So if I hopped in a boat and started paddling furiously in, I don't know, 30 days, I'd make it to Hawaii.
Oh, I get it. You guys are
Yeah,
way out there. So let me.
way.
So I live in San Diego, California, but I kind of accidentally got stuck in Illinois during this quarantine thing. But it's very interesting because I like the weather out there is I don't have seasons. There's no seasons there. But here it's been really crazy. Where you live in Australia, is there seasons like the Midwest, or is it always like the Gold Coast? Is it always like nice, kind of like Southern California, probably?
Well, we down the bottom part of Australia tends to get cold because it's closer to the
That makes sense.
Antarctic. So
Okay.
it can get pretty cold. It can snow
Oh,
down there.
damn. That's right. Because it's like
Yep.
right at the bottom.
Yeah.
Wow.
But many years ago, someone described Australia as the arse end of the world.
How
That
do you
was a
guys feel about that?
politician.
Do you feel, I mean, is it kind of like, yeah, that's good? Like we
Well,
accept
it's
that?
it's
Or
all right. Like asses are really
yeah.
handy. You sit on them.
I listen, everybody I've ever met from Australia, I absolutely love. So I'm about it. It's an honor to be here. I still have yet to go to Australia. I've only been to that side of the world once. And after having to fly there, I don't do long flights that well. So I swear the next time I go to that part of the world is the last time. And then I'm just going to work my way back, like back to San Diego. So it's a long flight to that side of the world. It turns out you guys
Oh,
are a long ways away.
it is. I've been to the state three times in the last
Oh,
three
really?
years, and that trip from LA to
Oh,
Brisbane is like,
oh,
are we
I
there
bet.
yet?
How long is that one?
It's 16 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a
That's
long
not,
time.
I flew from LA to Hong Kong and for an event I was speaking at last year. And I swear to God, me and my buddy, we just didn't know. We didn't know how long the flight was. And as we were getting on the plane, we thought it was only 7 hours. We thought it was, I don't know why. We thought it was a 7 hour flight. And they're all like, no, 17 hours. The look on my face was probably priceless. But yeah, anyways, it's
Oh, it
great to
is
be here
crazy.
tonight.
We went on a cruise at Christmas and we met a couple who were retired and they just cruise around the world. And they said it's the best way. You get like an around the world, maybe not at the moment, but
Right,
you get an
right.
around the world cruise and you go for 90 days and you
Oh,
stop off at all of these places. And I went, that sounds like, have you ever
I,
been on a cruise?
no, I want to go
Oh,
though. I'm about
it's
it.
mad.
Oh, it's the food, right? Like you get all the food you can eat, right?
Oh yeah, and if you're
Oh,
buying you can buy a drinks package so you can
oh.
just keep going to the bar, and it's really dangerous, Marshall. Maybe
I
don't do it.
listen. Okay, so wait a second. Okay, so wait a second. Maybe what we need to plan here is an obsessed cruise for like 2,500 bucks. They invest in the thing. You guys put it all together. You guys get a couple speakers there, a little workshop, and it'll be like a coming out of quarantine party, man. I'll fly across the world for
Woo!
that.
I love the way you think. Haley and I have talked about cruises before. We think it sounds like it's just the best of both worlds. There's entertainment,
Yeah,
there's
hundred
food, there's
percent.
drink. You can
It's interesting.
exercise.
I like the community that you guys have built, and like hats off to you guys because it's grown so quickly, and I'm assuming organically. I mean, you girls are. I mean, you guys are just like you're crushing it. So like hats off to that. But it's just interesting. There's people with businesses and passions, or we're like, we were talking about storytelling before we came on. And there's people that have these stories, and it's like there's never been a better time than now to like use your story to create a community like you guys have with Obsessed. But that next step in like a business model, which is that retreat model, I'm telling you, man, like it's been super lucrative for my business. But not only that, it's like it's been super impactful. You know, you sell that $2,000 to $5,000 package a range somewhere in there, and you take care of everything. You get a lot of like-minded people in one space, and it's just been magical. So I mean, to anybody that's watching or listening, if you run a business or you guys think about that, I'm telling you, the retreat model is absolutely gold right now, and people want more connection. And especially when we open back up, people are going to be craving that. So it's a good time
Yeah.
to like to do things like that.
Yeah. Well, we'll invite you, but we'll make sure it's a little bit closer than 16 hours flight.
Well, that's okay. I told like next time I come over, I'm coming over and I'm working my way back. And so I've been talking about traveling the world for a while. I'm 35, and I don't know if anybody watching this keeps saying that there's something they're going to do, but haven't done yet. Like probably not you guys, right? But there's something I keep saying, oh, I'm going to travel, but I never do it. And the really, I don't want to say cool thing because I don't want to discount anybody that's lost their life or anybody affected. But like the cool thing about this is it's given me a chance to reflect on my life and to really be like, okay, bro, like where are you still full of shit and where are you actually like going to do the things you're going to say you're going to do? And so I've been saying I was going to travel for 10 years and I'm like, now I'm doing it. And so I'm excited for this to open up and for me to do that because I have seen very little of the world. And I want to go experience that. So I don't know what you guys are wanting to do who are watching this, but write it down and let's make it happen. We can talk about it together in the Obsessed group.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a great group for that, isn't it? So
Oh yeah,
eclectic, the
it's
type
so
of people.
fun. You
I
guys have a
know.
great group. Yeah.
Pat,
So
pat on the back for us.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I actually pinned you guys to the top of my favorites list of my groups above my own group because I love getting because
Yeah.
it's flip flopped. I wake up and when I get into my phone, I think all you guys are going to bed. So I'm kind of getting the tail end of all the engagement and all the good juicy stuff at the top of the group, and that's where I dig about it.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, well, you can just like invite people on your side of the world so we can just be 24/7 spreading love and joy.
Let's go. Let's go. That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
All right. That's brilliant. Like, don't worry about us, everybody. We're just having our own private chat here.
Yeah. I told you
Marshall,
guys I wanted to share some energy today. So if nothing more, just have a smile, go get another glass of coffee or whatever you guys are doing. And yeah, what's up? Let's talk. What do you
yeah.
want to talk
Now,
about today?
you haven't always been this energetic, have you? Because I was
100,
reading your bio and you've
yeah.
had some pretty dark times. How do you come out of something so dark and
Yeah.
challenging? You know, I read that you almost took your life in your 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
It's
do you come
interesting.
through that?
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know how it works in Australia, if it's like a global thing, but like it's always something awareness month in America. And so, and not to make light of it, but this month is mental health awareness month. And so not that I need a month to talk about it, but, you know, based on my past and what I've been through, you know, attempting suicide and kind of all the limitations and trauma that I went through as a kid, that's really become my why. People are like, well, why do you do what you do? I'm like, I don't want another 13-year-old boy sitting on the corner of his bed in Illinois at night wanting to kill himself because he thinks that he's worthless. And so for anybody that's watching, to give context, I'm a transformational storyteller and I do a lot of, I travel and I speak a lot. And so a lot of things I speak on is really turning your mess into your message. And we've probably heard that before, but my thing is like, look, listen, we all have a story. Like we all have a story. There's something that we all went through that was a pain to us or that caused us trauma in our childhood. And most people never learn how to accept that and kind of figure that out. And so what happens is people go out and they live their life, but they're always triggered by something inside of them because they're really, you know, rejecting the part of themselves that they never deal with. But that's a whole other talk, right? So I was just able to break free of that. I was able to realize and kind of take a step back and gain awareness of what I went through. And because of that, I was able to realize, well, you know what? Like, if I could turn my mess into a message and I could go share that with somebody, I might be able to help them. And like, I know that sounds pretty cliche. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, well, I know that, Marshall. But for me, my parents got divorced when I was 2 years old. I watched my dad in a drunken rage throw my mom through the front door, the screen door in front of all the neighbors and this and that. And I think like in that moment, I really anchored in a limitation of not feeling safe. And so a lot of my big energy was developed as a young kid because it was actually a defense mechanism because I was like, if I can be the biggest in the room, then nobody can, like touch me. And so that's how it started. My mom got remarried at the age of 4 when I was 4 years old. And my stepfather was just a really mean man. And I grew up on a farm. We moved out to a farm, and every single day he would just basically tell me I'm a worthless piece of shit, a worthless piece of crap, and all these terrible things for like 14 years. Every single day, just these terrible things of how awful I am and how dumb I am and how I'm going to be worthless like my dad. But meanwhile, I would go out into public like a straight A student and captain of all my football teams and class president and prom king and all this stuff. But by the time I graduated high school, I had a full academic ride to college. But that first semester in college, I was just to a point in my life where I was like, no matter what I do, no matter how much success I have, my real dad is never going to love me more than alcohol, and my stepfather is never going to approve of anything I want to do. And so immediately I turned to drugs and alcohol. And we're talking, I mean, lots of cocaine, lots of drinking, lots of partying. And then I finally, at the age of 23, I tried to kill myself. And most people hear that story and they're like, oh, well, that must have been the worst night of your life. And it was a terrible night. I just decided enough was enough. And I took a bunch of pills, did a bunch of drugs, drank a bunch of booze, was hoping that I was just going to OD and pass out. And as I was lying on the floor, 2,100 miles away from, my hometown and my mother, I called my mom up and I was just like, I'm sorry. It's not your fault. I'm fading away on the ground and she's screaming on the phone, Marshall, wake up, wake up, wake up. And luckily, my roommate came home like an hour later. They found me and saved my life. But I didn't tell anybody that story. I didn't tell anybody. Like I was so embarrassed and ashamed. I didn't want anybody to know. And so over the next few years, I met new people, and I met a really new, a best friend, my best friend. And he taught me how to be vulnerable. He was the first man that ever said I love you to me and made it cool for me to understand that, as a man, I can still say I love you to another man. And I knew that he was struggling with a bunch of drugs and addiction. I knew he was really going through some stuff, but I never opened up to him because I was ashamed. I was like, I can't let anybody know that I did that. And 6 years ago, he gave me a call in March, and I let it go to voicemail, and he was just crying, "Hey, Marshall, it's Dustin. I really need to talk to you. Call me when you can." And I just was like, okay, I'll call him tomorrow. And I was like, okay, I'll call him this weekend. Okay, I swear on Monday I'll call him, and that turned into a month. And I woke up at 4:30 a month later. His sister was calling me, and she's like, Dustin hanged himself last night. And so for a long time, I dealt with a lot of guilt, like, oh, if I had just told Dustin my story, would that have created the space for him? Ooh, it's been a long time since I told that story. And
Yeah, I've got goosebumps.
yeah.
That's
And so I dealt with that, I grappled with that because my whole life was not being worthy. And so I was like, I let my best friend down. And so I decided in that moment I could continue to have everything that I'd always had, right? Which was misery, toxicity, terrible relationships. And I don't know about whoever's watching this, if you've ever been to this point, but like literally I kept thinking to myself, my God, I am trying my best. I am a good person. Why does this keep happening? Like, why do I deserve this? And not to get like all weird now, but like I'm definitely way more spiritual these days, just because I'm into quantum physics and I understand how it works. And I'm like, oh, that's how it works. Okay, thoughts become things. Cool. I'm into it. How do I tune myself? But I understand now that I was creating all of that. I was drawing all of that into me because I was so mad and I hated myself so much because my subconscious programming taught me to hate myself. And I didn't even know. How do you know what you don't know? And that's the thing with most people. They never stop to know what they don't know. But I found that over the last 3 years now, I was a broke-ass bartender. 3 years ago, I was like, I want to be a public speaker. I used live video and literally just made myself a public speaker. And so doing that, I've only used my story. And so now I just go out in the world and I'm like, yo, did you know that the most healing thing you can do is to share your story? Like whatever creator you believe in, like how crazy is it that the design is so perfect that literally that when you share your story and help people, not only do you save their lives, but you feel good. And you shouldn't feel guilty for that. The design, it was designed that way. You're supposed to feel good for doing good things. And so everything's changed my life, and it all started with telling my story. And so people will hear me when they first hear the story, and when I'm on stage and doing my thing, I'm very much emotional because it's my story, and so people really get dialed into it. But I tell people, listen, that's my story. That's my story. This is my story, but it's not a story about me. It's a story about you. And where in your life did you face a mess that you can turn into your message? Because I don't know where you're, like you watching this right now, I don't know where you're at in your life, but let me ask you this. Can you close your eyes and think of where you were at about 10 years ago? How old are you about 10 years ago? And 10 years ago, I was 25. So like, what was 25-year-old Marshall experiencing? Oh, like, whoa, like 25-year-old Marshall needed some help. And so I think about it and I'm like, well, if I can just Marshall today, if I could go back and just tell Marshall one thing, do I think I could help him? And I guarantee I could. And then I think about Dustin and I'm like, I need to tell my story. And so literally every day, all I did is I wrote down what I want my dream life to be about. I was like, I want to help people. I want to make a video money from my phone. And I just want to travel the world and hang out. Like you guys, like I'm hanging out and like freaking, I got my board shorts on. I just put a shirt on for this interview. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've just been
You
chilling.
got dressed up.
Yeah, right. And so it's like, not there's anything special about me innately, and not that I'm better than anybody. It's not right or wrong, but I have just found freedom, and like I found true liberation, and coming to grips with my story, and then realizing that it's now my gift. Like I learned all this at 31, and I'm like, I was thinking when I realized this, I was like, so you're telling me I think I'm gonna live to be 120, which is a whole different conversation. And I was like, wait, I only had to trade 31 years to have this wisdom. I'm like, this is a gift. Like this gift has given me freedom. And so if anybody's watching this, and especially with this great awakening that's happening in the world where you see people really being in tune to doing more things, connection, meditation, eating better, drinking better water, all this stuff, people are awakening. And so if there's ever been a time to not only create a business that makes a lot of money and helps a lot of people, but if there's ever been a time to truly heal the wounds and really learn what it is that still limits you, it's never been better than now. And it starts with getting honest with your story and then reverse engineering that to what hurt you and then working your way back out of it. And I'm all about storytelling. That's my jam.
Oh, well, you just told an amazing story then.
I know, I didn't mean to blab. I'm sorry.
You're excited about that. I didn't want to interrupt you. You had so much good gold stuff to say. I really love your message. Turn your mess into your message, because like you touched on a few things there about being ashamed of where you've been and that embarrassment. Like if I tell people that this bad things happen to me, are they going to judge? And one of the things because I love telling stories too, and I've been asking people questions about how they're coping in isolation, particularly in terms of business. And a lot of them are going, I really don't feel comfortable with telling or revealing how bad it is or how hard it is, because then I think people won't want to do business with me.
100%. Yeah.
Are you finding the same thing?
Yeah, well, I don't find that at all, but I've reframed it in my mind. And so I always explain it the same way. Like, we all of our stories are different. The details are different, but at the end of the day, like if I'm depressed and you're depressed, like we both know what depressed is. That there's different details and circumstances that got us there, but we can be relatable and understanding like, oh man, I'm depressed. And so what people have got to understand is that being a vulnerable storyteller, a transformational storyteller, right, means going out and understanding what emotion your audience is in at the time that they're watching you, and then thinking of a story or an experience from your life, could be 1 minute ago or 10 years ago, where you had that exact same emotion. Use that story to go out and tell them, to meet them at that emotion and pull them up. And so what I mean by that is the number one thing I teach all of my speakers: a good story is relatable. That's it. Like a good story is relatable. The number one objective is you're trying to paint a picture, a new world for them to live in. As I was telling you guys my story, I know that science says I'm trying to produce 4 specific hormones within your body while you listen to my story, which makes you lean in and be like, wow, I kind of like this guy. But that's more detailed. But what I'm saying is that people want to be related to. And so people are so sick and tired. And if you're watching this, the reason you love this group is because there's no bullshit. People are just like hanging out, just doing their thing. All of our bullshit meters are so high, we can sniff it out immediately. And so you've got to understand that it makes you relatable that you're struggling. People don't want another person that comes on and rah, 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 and tells them all like all the good things. They want to know, like, you know what, this sucks and I'm struggling and my fitness has taken a tumble. But guess what? I'm not stopping and I'm not giving up, because the same things that made me successful in life and business before are what's going to make me successful right now. And so people got to understand, this is the way I always frame it. I'm like, in a world where everybody is sitting down and afraid and just kind of worried, like looking around like, what do we do, you guys? Just be that leader that goes, all right, F it, I'll go first. All right, guys, so this is what I'm going through right now. And that's it. And like, you will see people flock to you so quick, because people don't care if it's you made $1 million, if you have the biggest business, or if you're the back. They don't care about that. They just want to know that you're willing to go, you know what? I haven't been the best, but I'm still committed to getting better. And that just creates a space. I just create a space for people to step into, to take their own foot off their back and give themselves permission to go, you know what? Yeah, I'm being too hard on myself. Like I like who I am and I want to be better. And it's literally all through storytelling. And so to anybody who is struggling right now with that, understand, like, you need to start where you're planted at. I don't care. Like, for example, I was speaking at this real estate investing event a little over a year ago. My 9-figure mentor, real estate guru, was going up on stage to at the end of a 7-day retreat. It was pitch day. It was like day 5. He's going up to do the pitch to the mastermind. And he comes to me, he's like, Marshall, I don't know what to do, and X, Y, and Z, and I don't know how to sell this and blah, blah, blah. And this is the big money earner, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so I told him, I said, yo, bro, just start right where you're at. Come out and tell the audience that you're freaked out about what you're about to do, because you've built so much equity and because people know who you are. And if they don't, that know, like, and trust factor is closed so quick when you tell vulnerable stories. I told him, if you go on stage, Anthony, and you do your talk, and then you tell them, hey, like, check this out. Did you guys enjoy yourself this week? Yada, yada, yada. Cool. I'm really nervous about this, you guys, because it's easy for me to make X, Y, and Z money in real estate. But like, sometimes I judge my self-worth on blah, 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 blah. Do any of you guys in the crowd feel like that? Cool. Well, this is why you're going to want to be part of our mastermind. And so it's never any shame. You just tell people, like, this is what I'm going through. And you will be astounded. Is that a word? At the response that you get. Yeah, right.
It's amazing, isn't it, that we are this complex creature.
Yeah.
And we always I never understand it. I do it myself. I'm sure that you do it as well. Is that we always tip to that negative side and worry about what people are thinking, and, you know, bag ourselves and put our own foot on our own back. And like, in all of your study and in all of your digging, have you worked out why we are so hard on ourselves?
Yeah. It's really programmed in this from our parents, or from an experience that we had from a younger age, or a circumstance. Now, think about, like, I'm 35, so even my parents, right, and your parents too, like, they didn't grow up with the internet. They didn't have a cell phone. You know, I'm a firm believer that the industrial, revolution really is what ruined kind of everything. You know, you see people used to be out in the homestead, families working together, doing their own thing. If the neighbors needed help, they did their thing. The Industrial Revolution comes along. Now, all of a sudden, dad can make more money in town, but for the first time, nobody's around. But mom has a little bit of money to go in town and to buy new things with the kids. And so now there becomes a disconnect. And as that continues to grow, now all of a sudden it's like the woman is like, oh, well, I need to be more. I need to do this. I need to do that. And so that's, again, a whole nother talk, right? But when you really start to think about that, you start to understand that it's, for a long time in society, the two sexes in and of themselves have been like starting to compete against each other to, I don't need one or the other. And so it's all about identity, and not that there's a right or a wrong to this, but this is how society goes. But nobody's able to communicate this. Every dad feels like the man feels like his self-worth is tied into how much money he brings home. The woman feels like her self-worth is only tied in identities. Her identity is tied into being a good housewife. And if you don't necessarily want to do that, then you start to resent what your role is. But nobody's talking about it and nobody says anything. And so your parents grow up pissed off, Like they didn't know how to communicate, and their parents weren't nice to them, or their dad was like whatever, if being lost into the phone is whatever their dad was lost into then. And so nobody's doing it on purpose. It's this hurt. We're all hurt. And so what happens is we grow up in these families, and our parents don't do it to us on purpose. Sometimes they do, and sometimes it's terrible, right? Sometimes it's any medium, but these limitations are placed on us as kids, but it's usually to keep us safe. Don't do that. That won't work. I don't believe in that nonsense. Get a job, go to school, the things that they knew intrinsically, which was go do X, Y, and Z, and you'll get this. But now we grow up, and you're starting to see at our age, it's like you just because you do. Actually, I don't know about Australia, but in America, the harder you work, the less you get, right? Which is like backwards as hell. And it's like, how does that work? And so why do people do that? It's because after they grow up and leave, it's a subconscious program. People don't realize, but on a molecular level, 95% of our memory is actually stored in our body. So only 5% of our memory is stored in our brain. The other 95% is stored in our body. It's stored in the DNA inside of the cells. We're made up of 50 trillion cells. So literally your emotions and your memories are stored in your body. From the age of 0 to 7, your brain waves are operating in theta state, which is literally the ultimate like download. It's like the ultimate meditation. It means you can learn, your subconscious can learn. And so from 0 to 7 or whatever we're experiencing as a kid is what we take in. And so once we have that subconscious programming and we leave mom and dad, we are always going to subconsciously look for reasons and manifest the circumstances and events that reinforce our negative self-belief, which is I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to be smart enough, or I shouldn't try that, or mom said I wasn't pretty enough. And not because they did it out of malice. A lot of times it's just inadvertently. A lot of these things with money too. Do you think money grows on trees? I'm not made of money. You don't have to have money to be happy, which is not good or bad.
Money is the root of all evil.
Right. It's just that we get these subconscious programming. So why do people do that? It's because they grow up as adults, and it's really, really hard to face the things that are painful. And as things continue to roll out where we're constantly distracted, people never stop because they don't want to face the pain. And they try to just act like they're happy, positive thoughts. But you've got to go backwards and be willing to change who, like I always say, you can't change who you've been with who you are. And so understanding how to change your subconscious programming is everything. And that's what's going to allow people to break through that. But a lot of that starts with being around, first and foremost, the right kind of energy, which means like a community. And so literally, if you're watching this and you're connected to Obsessed and you haven't been getting the results you exactly want in life, congratulations, you're in the exact right place. All you have to do is lean into the community and just kind of reach out and realize that a lot of the members of this community feel just like you. They're a little anxious. We don't really know how to interact and meet new people. And so just jump in with 2 feet and just learn to start to cultivate that energy. Energy is everything. And once you can start to do that, you're going to get a little bit more motivation. Oh, you know what? I do want to share that story today. I do want to tell somebody this. And then when you do that repeatedly, at the end, like you get done, you're like, yeah, you're walking a little bit taller. And all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm not going to eat that today. And I want to do this today. And that energy starts to carry over. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be perfect. Like if life was perfect, why would be the point? You would be God. Like it was just, if you could have everything you wanted whenever you wanted it, life would be so boring. And so finding the joy and the contrast of life and realizing that is the gift, that like pain and all these uncomfortable things, that's a gift. Because if you get to have that, then you know what the other side feels like. And so, yeah, it's a long effed up battle mentally and emotionally. But, once you dig into it, it just gets, like you said, it's so simple. Once you start to awaken to all these things, it's so simple. And you realize that you get to choose however you want to feel. But you got to get clear on what triggers you. And that's what the people have most tough time doing usually is letting go. Like I was in America. I've been wearing this hat in my video.
I bought my son one of those last time I was in America.
Yep. And it's not that I'm really a Trump supporter or not. The hat triggers people like real bad. And so the reason I'm wearing it in my video is because I'm like, listen, it's not the hat. Like I'm a great guy and I'm on a great mission and I help lots of great people. And if you listen to me, then you might actually like me, but you're writing me off immediately because of a hat. And so what I'm inviting people in my audience to do is I'm like, listen, whatever COVID brings up for you or whatever this does for you, understand that our external reality is a direct reflection of how we think and feel internally. So whatever you are triggered by right now in your reality is literally just a reflection of what you're going through. And so if me wearing a hat triggers you, it's not about me. It's not even about the hat. It's the meaning you're assigning to the hat. And what does that meaning make trigger in you when you see that? Oh, outrage and fraud. And okay, cool. So where in your life are you outraged at yourself, and do you feel like a fraud? And you're like, well, I do in my business or in my mail, like whatever. And then you go, oh shit. Right. And if you're able to heal, you feeling like a fraud by better communicating or better representing in whatever part of your life you're really lacking, you would see that hat and you'd be like, this clown shoe, Marshall, wearing that stupid hat, trying to trigger people. You ain't getting me, bud. Not today.
Not today.
Right? It's just a difference. And so
there's a saying. There's a saying, better out than in, and basically what you're saying is that we're best to get these things out and talk about them and discuss them and dig a little bit deeper, because when I can't remember exactly what you said, but you said you can't fix your thinking with your current way of thinking.
Yeah.
That's why we've got to go externally. Tell me, how do you find the right people to help you on this journey? Because if you can't fix it with your own thinking, there's so many flim-flam people out there and slick professional speakers who get up on stage and get you to pump your fists in the air and rile you all up. But do you think we need that, or is it a lot simpler to find a way forward?
You know what? It's very simple to find a way forward. The problem is that our ego, which again, not to get too far out there, but we have an inner self and our ego. Our inner self is the energy, is the life force. It's what God is, and that energy is just being represented. God is experiencing him and herself as Marshal Gillen, and so me in this third dimensional reality becomes the catalyst for God to experience and herself. And so you guys have got to understand that, my ego is what exists here. My ego's number one job is simply to keep me alive. Like, that's it. And so once you guys start to understand that, then you guys can start to kind of let go and start to look at your life like observationally and understand how it is that your ego is working within the world. And when you can apply that to what you're going through, and you can, what was I going to say? How do I want to explain this? What did you say? What was the question?
So how do you find the right people to help you on this journey? Not just to tell your story, but to be more comfortable in being you.
There you go. So again, this is a little bit out there. But for me, I started practicing something a little over a year ago where I called it playing the conscious observer. And so what I like to meditate, and I didn't like to at first. Like, I'm a blue collar farm boy, like 5-time college dropout. Like, I used to be like hardcore bro. Like, I'm not Mr. Let's sit around and meditate, but I am now. But I just really started to meditate on the fact of like trying to play the conscious observer. And so what I mean by that, you guys, is like, I'll sit in a room, and I'm going to answer your question. I would sit in a room and I would be like, okay, I see myself. I know I'm sitting on the couch, cross-legged or whatever. And so I would try to then picture myself from a different part of the room. And I started to do this all the time. I would find myself out at events or sitting at a table and looking at a cafe and looking out the window. And I would see people in random places, and I would try to close my eyes and put myself in their perspective. And it was crazy. I'd be like sitting in a cafe, I'd look out the window and see a truck driving by, and I would think, oh, what's it like to be that truck driver? And I could see everything from like that point of view. Again, I know this sounds crazy, but let's just call it the perception I was interested in seeing if I could develop. Once I started to do that, I was able to start to detach myself from the kind of the emotions that my ego was having, because I understood that I could still be Marshall, but if I didn't want to be triggered by something, I could play this conscious observer. So I started to practice then. Well, when I feel something bad, can I take a step back and go, okay, what does that really make me feel like? Am I really mad at her, or is there something in me it's really doing? And it's usually a combination of both. But once I was able to start to do that, which took practice and I had a commitment, I was able to do something that we've all heard before. Trust your gut. Okay. You guys, trust your gut. Like, your gut is really your first brain, but your second brain, whatever. But again, not to get into a bunch of weird energy stuff, but there's a lot. Your gut is literally, it tells you everything you need to know. Like, the evolution of language has really effed everything up, and it's really taught us to disconnect from our emotions. But if your emotions exist as a barometer to tell you how far away you are from your true inner being, and so if your true inner being is pure love and joy, your emotions exist to tell you how far away you are from that in any given moment. And when you understand that, you can start to remove some of these limitations. Now, I say all of that because now once you understand how to trust your gut, how do you find the people that are going to enrich your life, you'll just know. Like, what things are you genuinely interested in? Maybe you're interested in gardening. Cool. So go find a gardening community and just start to interact. You will naturally be drawn to what it is that where your community is at, and not because you have any choice, but because God made it that way, because God wants to experience him and herself as you specifically, not as you trying to be me, or you trying to be Mel Robbins, or you trying to be Oprah, or I don't know anybody famous in Australia, I'm sorry. like
We know
whoever,
who
like,
Oprah is.
right, of course. But it's like God wants you to be the best example of you. Like, if you swear a little bit, like, but maybe that's just part of you, but it doesn't make you good or bad. It just makes you you, and you're not going to go to hell for doing that. So what I'm saying to all of you is that if you want to start to find where you belong, start to really get into that story. Start to ask yourself what triggers me. Try to do that thing where you play the conscious observer with that weirdo in the weird hat. Marshall with the crystal necklace was like, I don't know, conscious of something. I'm going to try it, and just try it. And you guys will start to be able to separate that from the ego. And if you keep practicing that, you're going to start to, life will get weird, because you'll start to manifest a lot of really, like, basically anything you want. But anyways, yeah, that's what I would say to that is, like, you know, like, let your gut tell you where to go, but you got to do some work to be able to actually listen to it and trust it. Otherwise, this will always, always, always get in the way.
Absolutely. Totally agree
Yeah.
with you. I wrote something almost similar this morning. Someone asked me to
Really?
write a piece about saying no. And I
Oh,
went,
yeah.
your gut will tell you if it's the right thing to, when we commit to, you go, hey, Annette, we should go and do this traveling road show and it'll be amazing and it'll be this and that. And my gut's like going, oh, actually, I'm overcommitted and I don't really have time. But you know what? I really like Marshall and I don't want to let him down.
Yeah.
So I'll say yes, even
Yeah.
though it means that I'm in stress and I'm
Right. Right.
like, I don't
And
speak
so,
my truth.
and that's a perfect example. First off, anybody watching this, if you haven't set boundaries yet, if you haven't clearly labeled your boundaries, go do it. It'll change your life, but you have to stick to them. But that's a perfect example. Why? Why does that make you feel bad? Oh, I really like Marshall. And, like, it's because somewhere in our program as a young child, we were taught that that's going to let somebody down. And we're not those kind of people. Like, we go above and beyond. And not that it's right or wrong, but it just becomes that way, the way you do life. And people do this because they think that if they give enough, they're going to finally get that validation that somebody else understands that they truly care, and that, oh man, they'll see how much I love them, and then surely they'll finally love me back. And so people don't do this on purpose, but that's why people have such a hard time setting boundaries. And then we constantly set ourselves up for failure because we know we're overextended, but subconsciously we'll always do that because we want to do that, because it's a dopamine, it's literally a drug hit
Yep.
that
It's like,
reinforces the action. Oh yeah, that's right, I am worthless. Oh yeah, that's right, this will never work out. I am justified. I am validated. And I can't be validated anywhere else in my life. So subconsciously, I'll let my failures validate the fact that I'm a loser. And people do this over and over and over again by choosing to put on Netflix and they know they should do something different, by choosing to skip the gym when they know should go. And the first person that we break the commitment with is ourselves. And so I love that. And that, like, I think that's amazing. If you setting boundaries and saying no to other people's and being selfish is actually one of the most selfless things you can do, because once you schedule and frame your time in a way that plans to give back, then go do all that. Self-care is the new healthcare, right? That's what I've been. Self-care is the new healthcare. And
we need
so
that on a
once you guys
t-shirt.
get right, there you go. Obsessed. Boom. Hey, you heard it here first in conjunction with Marshall Live. And we'll do a cross promotion.
Woo. You,
Um,
and you said something really important there that that I think wraps
yeah,
up nicely what we've been
yeah,
talking about. Is that if you want to share your story, you want to feel that you're making a difference. Start with making a difference with yourself by loving
100%.
yourself.
100%. Yeah. I mean, science proves that our heart is magnetic and our brain is electric. And so, you guys probably know we have an electromagnetic current. That's just physics, right? That literally engulfs our body. And so when the woo-woo people like Marshall talk about law of attraction, we're not talking about anything. We just live in an energetic world. And so when you can literally, Gandhi, right, be the change you want to see in the world, like, Why do these people say this? It's not cliche, because when you start to change your energy, you literally emit physically a different energy that it could be infinite. And you have to understand is that when people come into a room and it's like that, they're like, ooh, somebody just fighting in here doesn't feel good. Or you walk in here, it's like, damn, somebody hit the lottery in here. What's up? Let's party, right? Like people feel that. That's how a lion. That's how a gazelle can see a lion across the way and know not to go there. They're like, not going there. Nope, that doesn't feel right. And so, right, and what I'm saying is people is understand that we can create that energy within ourselves every day. And you do it by setting up habits and routines and learning to love yourself and understand that whatever creator or God you worship, God doesn't give life without purpose. It wasn't like God was at the end of Sunday and he was like, you know what? I got like 12 more people I need to make for today's quota. There you go. Like, it doesn't work like that. We all have a purpose. God is doing something through us. No matter what you think, that's the truth. Like that's the thing. And so, when you are able to start to understand that your God wants you to be perfect, your God loves you infinitely. The creator, whatever source, energy, whatever it is for you, like, loves you unequivocally. And so understanding that, like, how do you fall in love with yourself? And if you're not in love with yourself, cool. Like, I didn't always used to be in love with myself. Like, I was like not the coolest person. I always had a good heart, but I wasn't like the best. And so I started to worry about, I would wake up and worry about, who do I have to be today? And not what do I have to do? Who do I be today? And once I figured out who I had to be, that allowed me to take inspired action. People wake up every day like, what do I have to do so I can have these things? And then finally I'll be the person I want to be. It doesn't work like that. If you guys love yourself first and you truly learn that you're like just the bee's knees and you're the best of the best, and you keep working on yourself, that energy, again, then to the hard science on a quantum physics level, on a physics level, right? We'll start to draw all the good things to you. And that's how we change the world. Like, anybody that knows my content knows I'm on a mission to save 1 billion lives that save 1 billion lives. And I'm going to do that with storytelling and vulnerability, because I know if I can use my energy right now, tonight, here in America on Wednesday at whatever time it is, and you guys somebody watches this from the group and they're like, damn, that gave me a little bit of action to do X, Y, and Z. And that compounds and it's the whole butterfly effect. Yeah, that's like, okay, Marshall, like, Mr. Captain Rah Rah, but like, no, like, I really am always like this. Like, this is how I am, because it makes me excited to think about the endless possibilities that we get to experience in this game of life. And so, ending this, if you guys can take anything away, I'm telling you, man, just start where you're planted. If you truly feel called to be a leader in whatever it is that you're doing, that doesn't mean you have to be on a stage telling your story. Just day to day, when people ask you, when a guy at the grocery store asks you how you doing, like, you know what? Like, I'm kind of a little pissed off today. I'll tell you why. But not like in a let's vent way, but like in a, hey, let me create some space to understand if this guy's pissed off. Like, I just mirror people's energy. That's it. If you guys start to mirror people's energy and try to be a good source to lift them up, dude, all the things that you want in life will start to come to you. It gets weird. I'm telling you. What's up, Naomi? Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. You go back and read the comments. There's some amazing comments.
Is there?
Marshall,
oh, guys, I haven't seen them. I'm sorry. I've been ranting.
no, I've been popping them up, but we've been focused. I always find that interesting with Facebook, where people are like going, oh, hey, this person, that person. It's like, I'm talking to the person I'm interviewing. I'm getting distracted. Yeah. I need to focus, which is why it's nice to go back. Marshall, thank you so much for your wisdom this evening, this afternoon, this morning, whenever it is. And thank you so much for being part of our group.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Personify just how amazing the world can be. And I'm really honored to have spoken to you today. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for what you created. I'm a big fan, and anything I can ever do to help you guys out, please don't hesitate, and I won't be a stranger. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.